Now, a while back, somebody said to me that I should probably take myself away every now and then from the whole Call of Duty gameplay and talking about how broken it is, and maybe talk about some life experiences so people can get to know me a little bit better. And I kind of felt that might be fitting right now, because the gameplay in the background is a multi-team gameplay, it's team deathmatch. And I essentially drop in with with a bunch of randoms, and the team I end up on with, which you might remember me mentioning a few videos ago, is 2 Splitscreeners. You can tell they're Splitscreeners because they have exactly the same name, except for one's got a 1 on the end, and they've both got exactly the same rank. So, you know, these two guys are sitting in a bedroom, sharing a little portable television, and have got one spoon between two while they're eating a pot of fucking cookie dough. I don't know what they're doing, but whatever they're doing, they bugger my day up. And these guys literally have me carrying them all the way. We lose, but it's close. It's a shame, but I didn't want to talk about that too much over an 11-minute or so video, because it's quite a long bit of footage. So I thought this might be the advantage and the time for me to talk about an experience. Some of the experiences I've had in my life are funny, some are good, some are bad, some I regret, some I don't regret. But this one now is hopefully going to be one that I can tell you a little bit about me so you know something, and hopefully anybody else who's ever thinking about doing steroids, obviously you can see from the title, by the end of this commentary you might think, do you know what, forget that. Enjoy the gameplay, let's crack on. Once upon a time I got some work with Network Rail, and we were refurbishing this railway station in Derby, which was essentially the main station. We tore it down and built it back up because I'm a brickie by trade, as I've said before. And all the guys that I worked with were from all over the land. Some people were from Ireland, Newcastle, Liverpool, everywhere. And what these guys would do is they would come down, they would find B&Bs or hotels, and they would stay overnight or all the week and then go home. Now there's two things you can do when that is your life, as I've done it quite a few times. You can either A, find the local bars when you finish work, go out, hit the nightclubs, have a nice time, eat kebabs, take some random woman back to your hotel, bang the living shit out of her, wave her off in a taxi the next day, go to work feeling like crap and you've spent a lot of money. The alternative thing you can do is to go and find a nice little spit and sawdust gym, get some like-minded people, lift the weights, and you know, do something good for your body. But a lot of these guys I work with, as I got to know them, I started to notice that they were all absolutely fucking massimo. These were huge guys. I mean, I'm quite big, but these guys were just something else. And after getting friendly with this one guy called Biff, funny enough, Biff, I got chatting about, you know, training regimes and all the rest of it, and he turned around to me and he said, look, he said, I supply all the guys with steroids. We all take steroids. Have you ever considered it? And I said no. So he talked me through it and he asked me what I wanted to do. Now, as a competitive fighter in mixed martial arts, my strength and key areas were in stand-up. You know, going blow for blow, pound for pound with somebody and trying to staff the ground as much as I could. The only problem is, a boxer or Muay Thai fighter's worst nightmare is somebody who's proficient in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Greco-Roman wrestling and wants to get you on the ground. That's where at their strongest is lying on the ground. That's where I'm at my weakest. So I said I want to bulk up, I want to mass out, so that if ever I get in that situation, I've got that extra bit of strength where I can rip myself out of it and crack on, get back on my feet. Fine. What you need is a course of testosterone and deca, or in their medical terms, testex prolongatum and decapronabol. Just a little bit of boring information for you there. So I had a little think about it and eventually I agreed. Now what you do is you do these 2 courses of steroids side by side to each other. So on a Monday you'd have 250 milligrams of testosterone, take the Tuesday off. On the Wednesday you'd have 250 milligrams of deca, take the Thursday off, and do the rest of it, and so on and so forth. So essentially you were taking in 1,000 milligrams of steroids a week. Now that's quite a lot. That some people do more, but that is quite a considerable amount. So eventually I got hold of this kit off him. It cost me £200 for this 10-week course, which is a lot of money. I took it home, I opened up the bag, and there was everything in there except for syringes, because it was an intramuscular course I was doing. The reason for that is because the one thing I did know is I didn't want to take steroids orally with water. Basically because if you imagine everything you eat has to go through your digestive system and then it hits your liver and your kidneys and they, you know, the liver's there to take all the crap out of what you eat, you really don't want to be having steroids going through your body because your liver can essentially, after a year's period, end up like that of an alcoholic's after a 20-year drinking binge non-stop. It's something you don't want to get into, so I opted to do it intramuscular, which is equally as nasty, but hey, it seemed like the better option. So because all these syringes weren't in there, he told me I needed to go to an addict centre. Now, an addict centre is a government-funded place where heroin users go to take their dirty needles and get fresh needles. Also, steroid users use it. Now, I can tell you something now. If there was anything that came close to putting me off doing this altogether in the first place, if I hadn't have paid the money already, it would have been a visit to this place. Because I sat in a waiting room surrounded by people who were like the Walking Dead. You know, I was just expecting them to stand up in ripped clothes and start chasing me out, screaming brains at me. They were fucking horrible. But I went in there, told the lady what I wanted, she gave me all the kit, and I walked away. You'll have to excuse me if I'm rushing through this, there's a hell of a lot to get through. So, the gains. After a week of taking steroids, I essentially gained half a stone in weight and size and mass, muscle, strength, everything. Everything went through the roof. It was absolutely awesome. 2 weeks later, a stone in weight, size, strength, muscle, mass. Everything was looking good. Along the way though, I started to think, I wonder exactly what I'm doing to myself. So I went onto the internet and I had a scour, which is probably something I should have done in the first place, to find out exactly what the side effects are and what it can do. And it was quite a scary read, because there was things on there I never even realised. Number one, I was doing my heart a shitload of damage. Only more so from prolonged use, but even so in short-term use, I should have been taking cod liver oil, I should have been eating more oily fish. It can promote and bring on high amounts of blood pressure, and I never knew about that. But thinking about it, you've only got to think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, how many years he did steroids. The guy had a triple bypass, for God's sake, so that was a bit of a wake-up call. The other one that I never knew about, which scared the life out of me, was something called gynecomastia. Now, gynecomastia is better known as something called bitch tit. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch Fight Club, where you've got Meatloaf's character with this massive pair of tits. That's bitch tit. And the reason that happens is in some people, the body takes in so much testosterone that the body's own way of working is it says, whoa, this is too much here, I need to make some estrogen to counter this. Yet, as we all know, estrogen is a female hormone. So once your body starts making that, you can essentially sprout breasts, you can lactate milk. It's fucking horrible. If you ever go on the internet and have a look at some pictures of gynecomastia, it's fucking awful. It needs to be operated on. You have to go through an operating procedure. The way to counter this is to take anti-estrogen tablets while you're doing your course of steroids. Now these tablets, you can't just go and buy them over the counter at some pharmacy. You have to get them on the black market again. So you go on the internet or you speak to somebody who you know who can get hold of them, and they are not cheap. So there was that. Another one of the down points or the side effects which I want to highlight is it's kind of an urban myth, but not. It's a preventable one if you go about it the right way, but it can happen. Obviously there's all the rumours that if you take steroids it shrinks your dick, you know, it reduces your manhood. That's kind of not true, but can be true at the same time. And what happens is, at the end of a 10-week cycle, because people generally do them on 4-week or 10-week cycles and then have 10 weeks off to give their body a rest and then start back up, testosterone is contained in your balls. Hence the reason why you're walking around like a fucking dog on heat all the time. You constantly want sex, you're jerking off 6 times a day. It's horrible. It's very frustrating. However, when you get to that point and you say, right, I'm going to stop, this is my cut-off day, bang, your body essentially has gone from being right up there to right down there. You can't see my hand, but I'm holding it high and low. So your testosterone levels go from being maxed out to all of a sudden slumping and dropping. And what happens is if you're a guy and you imagine you walk into a freezing cold swimming pool and you're naked, even if you're packing the kind of heat that Seabiscuit would be proud swinging about when he's running a race, it's going to shrivel up. Your balls go into themselves and your manhood doesn't look that impressive. That's what happens, except for the problem is it's a lasting effect and it fucking stays that way. So, to counter that, you have to get something called Clymed. And Clymed is something else that you have to get off the internet, off the black market. It's a milky white substance that you mix yourself and put back into your body, again, intramuscular injections. And this kind of balances it out. It's almost like a come down off the steroids. So instead of it slumping down, it finds its own equilibrium and balances out and stops that from happening. So it's all very glamorous, isn't it, guys? It's all looking good, and, you know, you see all these guys on telly and you're like, wow, I want to look like that. No, it's not as nice as it seems. Now, going right to the end, if I haven't put you off already, going right to the end, the thing that actually made me stop taking steroids altogether, because I was pleased with the results, I'd taken all the precautions to stop the breasts from growing and the dick from shrinking or whatever, the thing that made me stop was the roid rage. Now, roid rage, you've heard about this before. It's when the testosterone levels take over your brain to such a point that you cannot control how angry you get. You constantly find yourself in a state of rage. You look at recent incidents that have happened with, oh, what's his name, that Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius, I can't think of his name, killed his wife. The guy was an avid steroid user. I think there was an American wrestler a few years ago ended up killing his wife and kid, or kids, I don't know. As a user, I can look at that and kind of understand where these went, but I'll explain my two experiences. The first one was bad, the second one was awful. One day after a hard training session at the gym, I drove to work. I was driving along, I was doing stupid speeds down the motorway. I think I was going about 110, which was ridiculous anyway, but I was late for work because I've been training too long. There was a guy bumper to bumper with me, straight up the back, straight up the rear. So I'm looking in my mirror and this guy's going nuts, he's telling me to move over, but I was going too fast anyway, so I kind of stubbornly refused, you know. I was happy where I was, he could fuck off. So there I am, tanking away, and eventually this went on for about 5 miles, and my junction was coming up, which I had to come off to get to work. So I moved over, and what this guy did was he drove up, lined himself side by side with my car, we both looked in each other's vehicles, and he started clapping his hands and smiling at me in a smug face, and then tanked it off. Now, as he drove away, my initial reaction should have been, what a dickhead, probably given him a sign out the window, pulled off to my junction and carried on about my business. No. The feeling you get as a user is that you get all these pins and needles over your body, your blood starts coursing, your head feels like it's going to explode, and you literally want to kill somebody. So, like the idiot I am, I missed my junction and I chased him. I chased him for 25 miles down the motorway with one intention on my mind, and I'm not proud of this. I wanted to get close enough to his car to get to the rear end of him, turn right sharp, hit the back of his car, spin him off the motorway and kill him. That was my intention. I'm not proud to say that, but that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to end his life. And if it hadn't have been for the fact that his car was a faster model than mine, I probably would be in prison right now for manslaughter or murder or whatever you'd want to call it. So that was the one incident. This one's really hard for me to talk about. One day my wife went out with her friends. You know, we'd not long had our daughter. I think she was coming up to 2 years old. We hadn't had a lot of social time and she got a free pass. Bang, she was going out with her mates to have a good time. I had the house to myself, so she bought me in a pizza, she bought me a crate of beer. It was lads' night. I sat down, I put my Xbox on, I put my pizza in the oven, I opened my first beer, and then my daughter started crying upstairs. So I calmly went up, I opened the door, and there she was standing up in the cot, arms outstretched. So I did the paternal thing, I guess, you know. I gave her a bit of a fuss, I made sure everything was okay, I put the dummy back in her mouth, I lay her on her side, covered her over, fast asleep. Came back downstairs, went to take another drink, she started crying again. I went back up the stairs in the bedroom and she was doing the same again. Same routine, picked up, stroked, dummy, put her back in. This happened about 5 or 6 times. I think it might have been about the 7th time I started to feel that feeling again. You know, the pins and needles over the body, the blood rushing to my head, you kind of start shaking. Now I had a full can of beer in my hand. I crushed it, so beer pissed everywhere. I slammed the can down on the table, which split it and made the beer can actually go into my hand, which cut me open, which made me even angrier. So then I walked upstairs, or more like stomped upstairs. I approached our door. Now if you imagine the bedroom door in our house, it's not like one of these open and shut ones. It's actually fixed on hinges on a slider, you slide it open and shut. I got hold of this door with one hand, opened it with all my strength and ripped it off the hinges and pulled the railings off. Because that's the problem, your strength is just, it's superhuman, it just goes through the roof. As I'm standing there in the doorway holding this door, I've got blood down me, I've got a door in my hand, I look at my daughter who's standing up in the cot and she stopped crying. She looked at me and she looked at me like fucking Satan had just burst through the door in the form of a bear. That one moment I looked in her eyes, I realised that I had to stop. Because had the door have not come off in my hands, I don't actually know what I could have done. It wouldn't have been intentional. I could have just maybe picked her up and asked her what was wrong and just give her one shake. It doesn't matter. You got to bear in mind, I was about 18 and a half, 19 stone at this time. That one shake of me asking her in a frustrated manner of what was wrong with her, what did she want, I could have broke her fucking neck, you know? And that's hard for me to talk about, and I hate myself for that. I hate it. But that's what happens when you take steroids. And the worst part about it is that kind of sticks with you a little bit. You know, even now, I'll come to the front door, I'll have bags of shopping in my hand, I'll put them down, I'll get the keys out, I'll reach down to pick up a bag of shopping and it'll tip over before I can grab it, and a couple of potatoes will go rolling out the bag, you know. That'll be enough for me to kick the bag across the floor. It's just stupid. It sort of, messes with your head and it messes with your body. So yeah, those are the problems with steroids, guys, and if that hasn't put you off, then I don't know what will. Because one thing I can guarantee you is all those ill-gotten gains that you got over that course of time when you took steroids, once you come off and you leave it a while, it's all water, guys. It goes back into your body and you piss it out and it's gone. No more Superman. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that enlightenment and insight into my weird life, and let me know if you want me to do another one of these, guys, and I'll try not to do them too often, but yeah, I'll see you later. Apocalypse done.